Impact Wrestling just keeps ticking along, doesn't it? We had Turning Point at the weekend, and they have that episode of Impact, and everything ties in. Sometimes they may do a few too many rematches, but who cares about that? Not me and my bald head. But thank you very much for joining me once again, and if you are brand new, welcome. Come on in, sit on down, make yourself a hot cup of warm cocoa, because what we're going to do is this. We take this thing here, it's called the Finger of Power, and it gives the good bits and up, and the bad bits are down when it does come to professional wrestling. So don't get mad at me if you disagree with the things I say. It's all coming from the hand that's attached to my body. My name is Simon Miller, this is WhatCulture Wrestling, and let's up those downs for the latest episode of Impact Wrestling. See, what did I tell you? Impact loves a rematch after a big show, because the very first thing we saw this week was Moose taking on Willie Mack. And once again, it really didn't go very well for Mr. Mack. I feel quite sorry for him, but look, we are all in with Moose. He is being sent to the stars. He is going to be your big next main event player. There ain't nothing wrong with that. So it's getting it up. The point here as well is that this was a no DQ match to tie into the fact that we kind of did get a disqualification on Saturday night because Moose had taken his feast and he had beaten up Willie Mack so bad the ref was like, well, I don't really appreciate this, so I'm going to throw the whole thing out. And this really played to Moose's strengths because he's got this crazy new finisher where he basically just punches you into dust. He's a bit like a Gears of War character, which ties in because the New Day just went into Gears of War. Why the hell don't we do the same with Moose? He's clearly going to be a massive challenger to Rich Swann's World Championship soon, because he kept looking in the camera when he did have some downtime going, Rich Swann, because he wants to kick his ass. And yeah, after he had hit the spear onto Willie Mack, he did this pound and ground thing to the point the ref had to go, please, no, stop. Now, I don't know how we're going to play that out if you don't have this stipulation hanging over your heads, but look, it is a little bit different. It does make Moose come across like an absolute maniac, and that ticks all my boxes. It also means that when we do finally decide to go all in with him and push him towards the actual World Championship, you're gonna believe it, because Impact Wrestling put in the time. I mean, think of everything we did with EC3. I appreciate the dedication to the cause. We then said goodbye to the Rascalz, who had a very nice video package, and it just made you feel nice and warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. And the rumour is maybe that they're going to NXT, maybe Trey Miguel is going to AEW. We will have to wait and see. We then cut to Tommy Dreamer when he was finally being told by the Deaners, after what, 3-4 days, that they had found a gun in Johnny Swinger's belongings. Surely that counts as perverting the cause of justice. If you find a potential murder weapon, you don't sit around for a few days going, oh man, what should we do? Also, you told Tommy Dreamer, no offense to Tom, tell the flipping police. It was then Suicide versus Geo. I mean, what? I have been watching Impact Wrestling very attentively for the last few months, and these two dudes haven't featured at all. Now, later on, it's quite clear why we did do this, but at the time, I was baffled. I went back through all my old notes over the last few weeks, like, did I miss something? But no, these two just reappear from nowhere. This is getting it down. It didn't even go 3 seconds, because before we even began, out came Eric Young, out came his new friend Joe Doering, and they just destroyed these two fools because they are livid with Impact Wrestling, they're livid with the roster, and it's not their fault, it's everybody else's, because they kept getting in Eric Young's way. So I guess now he's going to destroy everybody until someone tries to stop him. But who the hell would be crazy enough to do that? Still really weird though, because again, Eric Young said that they'd interrupted their plans. These two have only been together for around about 72 hours. Had an interview with Donna Perazzo next, and she is super happy to be a two-time women's champion, especially because she only won her first championship 6 months ago. I was a bit like, Donna, you shouldn't say that, because that just says you lost it well too quickly the first time round. But yes, it's true, you have won it back. Round of applause for you. This is not her current aim though, because her new focus is teaming up with Kimberly as they enter the Women's Knockout Tag Team Division tournament and try and win those brand new belts back. Unfortunately, then the lights started to go weird, and if you have been watching the program and you were like, man, Su Yung is about to do something crazy. And that was kind of true, because when the lights came back on, there was a message written on the mirror, and it said, next week, your time has come. And yes, your was spelt U-R, and has was H-A-Z. And I was like, Sue, come on now. H-A-Z, writing H-A-S takes no more time. It's the same amount of letters. There's no point to that. It was like a 14-year-old writing on their phone. Has your mate Come on. We also saw Heath and Rhino having a chat, and that was always nice. Heath is going to see the same rehab specialist that Rich Swann saw, and obviously he did a fabulous job there. And then Rhino left to have a go at Eric Young and Joe Doring. And that didn't work either, because they beat him up. And then when Heath emerged from the room when those two had been chatting, Eric and Joe went in there and they closed the door, but I doubt they sat down to have a game of cards. In fact, if I had to guess, I think Heath got his ass whipped. So maybe that's a tag team match for down the line. More fallout from Turning Point as Brian Myers was taking on Crazy Steve, because of course Brian Myers was beating the hell out of Swog when the Crazy One came out to make the save, and now Brian Myers wanted his revenge. It was fine. Up. The story was that Brian is a professional wrestler, whereas Crazy Steve is Crazy Steve. So Brian would try and lock up, but Steve would just kind of like dance and jolt around the place. Because again, he all kinds of nuts. It did work in the sense he actually almost won a couple of times, but then Brian Myers found a great way to get around this, and he took his finger and he poked Crazy Steve right in the eye. I hope Rey Mysterio wasn't watching, that would have made him very upset. He then smashed him with a lariat to make sure he got the 1, 2, 3, and Impact Wrestling are doing quite a good job building up this Brian Myers character as whatever the hell he's meant to be. I mean, he does have every single feud in the world. He has taken on so many people, but I'm invested in what he's going to do, and really, I have no idea who he's going to fight next. Tommy Dreamer then finally got Johnny Swinger in his office, and once more, this took way too long to try and sort out. We think we found someone who's murdered Johnny Bravo, and we're just hanging around playing Nintendo. But he wanted to see what was in Johnny's fanny pack, or bum bag if you live over here in the UK, and he did reveal this weapon, but he was all like, man, it's just a gimmick, don't worry about it. And Tommy Dreamer lost his mind like, no, it's not. That is literally what we've been looking for. So next week, I've got to bring back Wrestler's Court. And I just face palm like, guys, you're doing this all wrong. You have to go into the real legal system. Wrestler's Court can't dish out any real punishments. But I will say, I do find all of these very entertaining, and I bet the segment next week is the same. So yes, next week, Tommy Dreamer is going to drill Johnny Swinger hard. It's not how I meant it. I kind of like the twist that came next too, because it had logic and it made all the sense in the world. But it was our first women's tag team tournament match, which saw Tenille Dashwood partner up with her new friend Alicia Edwards to take on Havoc and Nevaeh. Now again, because they were a brand new team, you were like, oh man, I bet they're going to do really well, and I bet they're going to get all the momentum in the world. But no, we stuck to task here, we stuck to the character, and I really liked it. Because no matter what Tenille Dashwood says, and no matter what Tenille Dashwood does, she is so obsessed with herself, as well as Caleb with a K, she doesn't care about any kind of matches. She does it first when they were in control and they were winning, but as soon as it went bad, she was more interested in taking a picture of herself, and that left Alicia Edwards all alone, much like what had happened with Jordynne Grace, and of course she lost. How was she going to win what essentially became a 2-on-1 match? So Havoc picked her up and smashed her to the ground and got the 1, 2, 3, so those two are now going to go into the next round. And surely we have to have some kind of blow-off match between Edwards and Dashwood. Everybody is going to get so pissed off with Tenille, but that is the whole point. As me taking a picture, I don't know what is. Sometimes things just happen. This all kind of tied in as well, because then we went to the back and Jordynne Grace was on the phone talking to her brand new tag team partner, and we have no idea who this is. And she was all like, oh man, I can't believe you were going to retire, and now I can't believe you've come out of retirement to team with me. And I was like, who the hell could it possibly be? It was a little bit funny, because she was acting like there was no camera right in her face, but there clearly was. And the only name I could come up with was Gail Kim, but I doubt that's going to be true. But look, now I want to tune in next week. And then, oh my days, Hernandez was having a match with Fala Bar over the flippin' stupid money. Do you know, in the time you lost this money, Hernandez, you could have done a bunch more arm wrestling competitions and won it back. I'm not gelling with this story, down. And it was a nothing match really too, and Hernandez won using the Superman splash, which did look very good by the way. They showed another angle and I was like, ha, he flew through the air like a buzzard, and surely now we can just let it die. Although we can't, surely now Hernandez has to go after Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steele, because they stole the money from Fala Bar, so that's just the natural continuation of things. I don't think Impact Wrestling is going to do that, but I just wanted to make the point. We then had Rohit Raju going absolutely nuts in front of Scott D'Amore, saying that he's the best, that he's the man, and everybody should love him, and that he didn't appreciate getting beaten up at Turning Point. So I got this completely wrong. I thought we were going to try and make him a more sympathetic figure. Absolutely not. he is a jackass. TJP then arrived and Rohit looked right at him and went, look, don't forget bro, we signed the contract and because your name is TJP, you are never allowed another shot at the X Division title. And then we found out, or at least I think we found out, why Suicide had made his random return to Impact Wrestling. Because Scott D'Amore, who absolutely hates Rohit Raju, and I'm not surprised, just gets shouted at all the time, basically said to TJP, look, within the confines of the rules, TJP isn't allowed to fight for the X Division title, but another character or another person, or, wink wink nudge nudge, someone wearing a mask, he didn't say that, but he compared it to something that Dusty Rhodes would do, so you knew what he was talking about, could absolutely go after that belt. So now TJP is obviously going to become Suicide once again, and probably beat Rohit. He's going to be really annoyed. I don't know why I sound pissed off about this. It's a very smart storyline. I think just that reappearance from Suicide to tie into this, well, it was a little on the nose. Otherwise, good stuff. I then think Impact hinted that we were going to get AJ Styles versus Ethan Page, even though not in a million years, at least under the Impact banner, are we going to get AJ Styles versus Ethan Page. Because the Good Brothers were hanging out with Scott D'Amore in their brand new tag team championships when Ethan walked in and was like, look, I want a rematch and I want it now. And Gallows and Anderson were happy to do that as long as he beats, wait for it, and I quote, a phenomenal opponent first in a singles match. And who else do you think they were hinting at? And again, it is 100% not AJ Styles, but all this is going to do is piss that one guy off on the internet who will make up his own expectations and then melt down on Twitter when he doesn't get it. Once more though, I am fascinated about who this is going to be, and you've got to think that it's going to be some kind of a joke. We'll have to wait and see. Also, there's a rumor going out there that Ethan Page hasn't re-signed with Impact Wrestling. What the hell is going to happen? And that tease then brought us to our main event, which was Rich Swann and Trey Miguel going against the Rascalz. And I would really like it if more wrestling promotions could find it in their heart to allow guys to leave in this way. It was such a lovely thing to watch. Just a good match and a goodbye is getting it up. And this was basically a showcase for Xavier Wentz and Miguel, so they could be like, hey, look at our visual CV, we're really good. As Rich Swann also got involved, and they were having fun, and they were doing all their moves, and everybody was going at 100 miles per hour. And there was a spot, yes, where basically everybody super kicked everybody else and they fell down. And you know that's going to wind some people up. For me, personally, I like it. Xavier and Wentz were always going to be on the losing side because on Miguel's team, he had Rich Swann and Impact want to big him up to the moon and back. And after Swann had hit that new, what does he call it, shotgun super kick onto Xavier, I mean, he just booted him right in the head, the back of the head at that. He pinned him at the 1, 2, 3. And then we got this emotional scene. Everybody was hugging. It was quite clear it was real. They left their gear in the ring before they waved and went away. This is how people should leave wrestling. I love it when we get positive peak moments. Or at least that was the case until they went backstage and then Sami Callihan and Ken Shamrock absolutely whipped their asses. I'm not gonna lie, in terms of what a heel would do, this was so good. I was laughing, but I was laughing because I was like, what a couple of dicks. Because as soon as they were there, Callihan and Shamrock did exactly this, and at the end, Shamrock looked at Rich Swann, punched him right in the face, and I think next week on Impact, we are gonna get Rich Swann versus Ken Shamrock. And this comes back to the whole, what the hell's gonna happen in 2020? I never thought I was gonna see that match. I mean, I'm gonna guess the World Championship is probably on the line. Just imagine, Ken Shamrock became the Impact World Champion this year. And you can't say that it's definitely not gonna happen, because think of everything else that has. And there you go, that's another episode of Impact. And once again, I'm gonna say what I always say, but you always know what they're gonna do, and they just give it to you. You're gonna have some nonsense, you're gonna have some shenanigans, you're gonna have some good matches, they've got a really good roster. I really enjoy Impact, it's such an easy watch. Now don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Impact. Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can keep up to date with all aspects of pro wrestling. You can be a super nerd. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. And if you hate me, we have other presenters. I'm sure you'll find the one for you. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you very much for watching me as always, and I'll see ya when I see ya.